On the evening of September 25th, 1983, the sky over Northern Ireland hung low and dark. It did not rain, but the air felt heavy. Pressurized in the southwest of Belfast stands Maze Prison, one of the most heavily guarded prisons in Europe. There is no sea here, no isolated island, no freezing currents. And yet, it was considered just as impossible to escape, because the men held inside were not ordinary prisoners. They were members of the Irish Republican Army, the IRA. Maze Prison, also known as H-Block Prison, was named after its distinctive H-shaped layout. Each H-block contained 4 prison wings, a central control room, multiple steel security doors, and armed guards on constant duty. Across the entire complex were automatic locking systems, armed prison officers, high walls, barbed wire, and watchtowers. This was a place designed by the British government, not simply to hold criminals, but to contain a conflict. And inside H-Block 7, a genuine military operation had already been in preparation for months. At the center of the plan were 3 men. Bobby Story, an internal IRA operations commander, calm, disciplined, and precise. Gary Kelly, responsible for external coordination and timing. Brendan McFarlane, known as Bick, the key operational coordinator on the ground. They were not planning an escape. They were planning to take control of the prison. Step 1. How the weapons entered. This was the most critical and most improbable stage of the operation. Firearms could not be manufactured inside Maze Prison. There was only one way in: smuggling, through visiting rooms, and external supporters. Each gun was completely disassembled. Individual components were concealed in the bases of food containers and intimate body concealment, including internal cavities, only small parts at a time. In total, 6 handguns were introduced, mostly .38 revolvers and compact semi-automatic pistols. The process took months. Prison guards check for single-instance risks, but what they do is accumulate risks over a long period. Step 2. Tools. Beyond the firearms, they required more. Screwdrivers, small cutting tools, rope, key fragments, and prison officer uniforms. The uniforms came from one place. From the guards they would later restrain. Step 3. Internal rehearsal. 38 prisoners were involved. They were divided into teams, control units, weapons units, escort units, and logistics units. A silent communication system was established. Hand signals, whispered cues, light tapping. Every man knew which door he would control, when to act, whether to fire if the plan failed, how to divert attention if an alarm was triggered, and the exact route to follow if the main exit was blocked. Casualties were to be minimized. They prepared mentally. This was not only a test of walls and steel, but of patience, discipline, and restraint. Every movement carried the weight of life or death. The day of the escape. Sunday, September 25th, 1983, 5:30 p.m. Inside H-Block 7, everything appeared normal. In the shadows near the corridor corners, 3 core prisoners were already in position. They wore standard prison uniforms. Inside their bags were every tool required for the escape. 5:31 p.m. Prison officer Alan Smith conducted his routine patrol. Clipboard in hand, his pace unhurried, his eyes passing over the cell doors. He did not see the figure closing in behind him. Hands up. Now. The command came in a low voice. The command was followed by the cold muzzle of a gun pressed against Alan's back. Alan's hands froze in midair, unable to react. He heard the prisoner whisper in his ear, "Slowly, don't make a sound. Obey orders." He was moved into a shadowed corner. His hands and feet were bound. He resisted instinctively, but the restraints were fast, precise, and silent. At the same time, Bobby Story monitored the adjacent corridor, ensuring no other guards appeared. Nearby, Gary Kelly severed the emergency communication line. With a screwdriver, The entire process took less than 45 seconds. 5:32 p.m. across H Block 7. Other prisoners were already in position, waiting for the next signal. 5:33 p.m. A second guard was taken using the same method. Then another. Controls spread from block to block for the first time in its history. Mays Prison was under the control of an internal military operation. False orders. The prisoners put on prison officer uniforms and began issuing commands to other areas. They used the correct codes, the correct tone, the correct procedures. No one realized that the control room had already fallen. The truck, 6:30 p.m. A food delivery truck entered the prison. It was expected. The truck was seized. The driver was taken hostage. The plan was straightforward. Prisoners would board in groups, disguised as transferred personnel, and be driven toward the main gate. Near the main gate, one guard became suspicious. A confrontation followed. In the confusion, a prison officer suffered a fatal heart attack. It was the only casualty of the operation. 6:50 p.m. The main gate opened. 38 prisoners ran out of Mays Prison. 35 escaped. 3 were immediately recaptured. It was the largest prison escape in British history. The British government was outraged. The official investigation exceeded 300 pages. Its conclusion was brief. This failure resulted from internal discipline, external support, and systemic vulnerability. Mays Prison still stands. H Block still exists. But from that day on, Britain no longer believed that high walls meant security.